Hell is that motherfucker?
To my father's black card, to my black card.
God, I haven't done Sambuca since I was 20 years old.
We are at Massive Entertainment in Malmö, Sweden, talking to part of the design team and the producer who's worked on Far Cry 3. I think, first of all, large part of the game has been developed in Canada while you were here in Sweden. So how does that process work in general terms? Like, since, you know, they're far away and they're in a different time zone and they're being the leads, I guess, and you sort of have to build on what they're doing. How does that whole thing take place?
Well, I guess that's a question for the producer, really. But we have like lots of creative ways and tricks how to make sure that we stay the same game. But
well, a lot of the parts we share. On those parts we need to be kind of careful and watch out what others are doing. But we realized from the start of the project that we need to realize what parts we don't share and where we easily can work and quickly do iterations and so on. And then we have to be slightly more careful on the shared parts so we don't interrupt each other.
Yeah, I think one of the best ways and the smartest thing we did was that we are, and it's a bit of a techno babble, but we're in the same code, in the same engine. Every day we all work on the same server. So whenever a change and an improvement is made in the main studio in Montreal, that automatically just works and pops up when we start the game in the morning. So that it's like all the guns, all the art, all the cool stuff we just automatically get. So that's a key to making sure that we stay the same game. But then we've also, I mean, naturally there's a lot of communication, there's a lot of travel. I don't know how many times I've traveled to Montreal, it's just silly. And there's like all the conferences and all the phone calls and all the sort of video conferencing. So, but there's all these things that we do to communicate. But I mean, so there's challenges. You know, it's a 5-6 hour time difference, so yeah. I mean, it's a whole Atlantic Ocean really. So it's been difficult, but I also think that the process of having two sort of strong-minded studios where we sometimes, you know, disagree a little bit and we fight it out, and then the best idea wins, because you know, they've been really nice to us in Montreal, and they've just been very attentive and listened to us when we had, maybe we can do it this way instead. So it's been really collaborative, I would say.
And it's also about focus. We've been able to focus fully on multiplayer and how to deep down as far as we can into multiplayer experience, and they've been able to say, okay, they handle multiplayer, we can focus on single and make that great big open world.
Right. So is it like when you got started on your part of the game, were you given complete freedom, or did you have a set of guidelines, or did you sort of duke it out with the Canadians, how you go about it?
Well, of course, the first thing we did was sit down with like the lead creative director and the people that are in Montreal. They are the lead studio. We sat down and sort of did a brain meld where we all made sure that we shared the same vision, this is the direction, this is where we're going.
It's important that it feels like the same game to our fans.
Yeah. So, but absolutely, there's been big freedom. I mean, it's also about the reason why we do this is to make sure that they can focus 100% on making sure that the single player is 100% awesome. So it's also a little bit about, for our job has been a little bit about to not get in their way too much. So it's very important to get really to sync up really good, and then have the watches synchronized. So it's been because we don't want to sort of we don't want to complicate things too much either. So it's been sort of a balancing act on just how much do we bother them, almost, you could say. I don't know if what's like the process been. What's the process been? So Didi, you've been working a lot with co-op. So what's that been like in terms of the collaboration?
Well, I think for co-op, we are in this probably more than adversarial multiplayer. We're in a place that's a little bit in between because we're sharing the AI. So as we talked about before, there's been a lot of communication, almost on a daily basis. You talk to people about what are your needs, what are they doing. But in the end, we've had a lot of freedom to do the best possible thing that we could do, but still within the constraints that we were working under. And for co-op, it was very much, especially the AI, how does that work? How can we build maps where we make that work the best way? And the only way to do that is just through a lot of communication.
Speaking of multiplayer, I know you were talking earlier about how you wanted to do things differently, sort of, for Far Cry. Can you sort of elaborate on that a bit? Tell people about it.
No, I mean, coming into the multiplayer, it's a big genre, especially in the FPS. So it's kind of, it boils down to cutting out your own piece of the pie, basically. And we wanted to create an experience that is unique to Far Cry. That inherently comes from basically two parts. One, you have the most obvious, which is the island. It is it's not a contemporary military game. It's set on this crazy island with lots of colors. We decided to, like, which you instantly see is this is not a brown or a gray first-person shooter, which is something that you see very often. It's actually a very colorful game. So that's like the first thing that comes in. And when I say colorful, I don't necessarily just mean the visuals. We mean the whole concept of the game is extremely colorful. We have the final moves where you get to punish the losing player and losing team. This is all things that you could not do in a military shooter. I think if you would do that, that would be breaching the Geneva Convention. Yeah. But also in terms of gameplay, where we wanted to introduce what we call soft team play requirements. Basically, team play requirements that doesn't break the game for your teammates if you do not fulfill them. Basically, an example of a hard team play requirement would be, like Sambo mentioned earlier, if you have a game where only the class X can open a door with a key, and if he doesn't do that, he breaks the entire game for everyone. We didn't want that. We wanted to really pack the game full with soft team play requirements that doesn't break it for anyone else, but if you do utilize them, you get an edge over the opposing team. And those features are like the revive, that everyone can revive everyone. It's not class specific, so if your friend goes down, it's not going to be a situation where you're like, oh god, I'm not a medic, I can't revive him. Like, everyone can revive everyone. We have the battle cries, which is this this vocal buff that you can give to your teammates that are within a certain proximity, and how all this how basically every single team play action that you execute ties into the team play economy. So by doing these actions, team play actions, you get access to the heavy guns, the heavy stuff that you can drop in on the map and get lots of kills. So basically the multiplayer loop looks like you get into the map, you try to do the objectives, you team play, you gain access to the heavy weapons, then you drop them down, you get lots of kills. You team play, access heavy weapons, drop them down, lots of kills. So the cycle is basically the guy who team plays is the guy who's going to end up with top of the scoreboard with most kills in the end, basically.
And just to add to that, it's all about encouraging team play, not about enforcing it. And we've been working with the same type of guidelines for co-op as well, that it's all about encouraging team play, encouraging you through mission design, through different features, to just stick together and work together as a team. But we never have you need this person to be here and push this button at the same time as this person doing this thing over here. So it's never the hard co-op requirement. It's always just encouragement.
Something I've noticed is that the player progression seems to be shared between compared to the multiplayer and co-op. As far as I remember, I don't think I've seen that, at least in a lot of games before. So I'm wondering, what sort of challenges does that pose when you have to sort of combine those two systems?
Well, it's actually it's not that difficult. I mean, there are some games that have done it, and when we started out, we sat down and thought, like, okay, so why don't more games do this? And we started thinking, is it about difficult to balance, or do people go into, will the multiplayer people be upset that people have earned these unlocks through you know, a non-competitive way, and it's like no. So for us, it's just we tried it out, and it just makes perfect sense. You go in, you know, the most common natural way is that maybe you play the single player campaign, and then you go over to co-op and try that before you go into to adversarial multiplayer, and if you know you unlock stuff, it just works. I think also one of the things it does enable us is that so for co-op we have these difficulty settings, and the really hard ones is where, so you start out, you don't have a lot of stuff unlocked, you probably, you know, play on normal, and then you finish it, and then you get better as a player, but you also unlock more stuff, and to get it to tackle them on the sort of the more difficult ones, now you suddenly have the knowledge of what kind of player am I. I'm gonna build my perfect class where I'm like a sniper, but I'm also quick, and I'm this and this and this, and then you have the knowledge and the tools have all grown together, and then when you move over to like the adversarial, that you don't have to restart all over again. It just makes perfect sense. So having such a long and replayable co-op, it would have been painful to restart, or you know, to have a different progression mechanic. So it's just everything just works perfectly, and I don't understand why the others don't do it more.
Today's release day, which I guess would mean that the game's done for you guys, but probably not, I figure. So what's next? What are you up to now?
Well, for a lot of us, this is day 0. When we start monitoring the game, start interacting with the gamers, we need to be alert 24/7 to see that the servers are up and running and so on. So I mean, for us, in very many ways, this is the beginning, not the end.
Yeah, there's like a big part of the team does not move to another project, or even they don't even get like their vacation now, like many of us, because they're basically, you know, it's about supporting the game. It's about making sure that, you know, things are unbalanced, we fix them, you know, if there are any issues, you know, we address them. So we do have like a live team that is all about, you know, both technically and creatively supporting, because it like online, you just can't leave it, because there will be issues that you need to fix.
So is there anything in the pipeline with regards to like new maps or game types or stuff like that?
I think that the best thing about Far Cry 3 and sort of the multiplayer is that we are not gonna. We have the in-game editor. We have the wonderful map editor that is also available on all platforms. It's not just a PC thing, where people will be building lots of multiplayer maps, and this means that, you know, we're just going to get so many good maps. So for us, it was about putting the systems in place to be able to promote those maps and put them, you know, in showcase rooms so that they weren't hidden away. So for us, it's about monitoring what the community does and taking the best maps there, and then, you know, making sure that they get a prominent position in our playlists. So that's the work we're doing. We are not creating, you know, we don't have to do maps for after release. The community will take care of that, and that's a great thing.
So then what is next for the design guys? Because I guess you won't be meticulously just going through user-created maps and saying, oh, this one's good, we'll use that.
I mean, like Soundboy said, we're gonna be, we have a live team running, which is basically, we have solely dedicated people for running the live team, but we also have like people from design. Even if we do move on to other projects, we're still gonna monitor, we're still gonna work on the game, make balancing changes and such. And then, I mean, we really hope that the community around the map building is gonna grow. So perhaps in the future we can do events and such with prominent map makers and have them come over to the studio or something like that. It's gonna be, could be really, really cool.
Let's go. Did he fucking pass out? Hold the door! Yo, Jason, get in! Get in!